So today I'm going to talk about something that sounds a little bit techy, and that is predictive coding. Sounds a bit AI, doesn't it? But it's actually from psychology, and stay with it because it's actually one of the most important ways that your brain affects your riding. Once we understand what predictive coding is, and how it works, and I think you'll have a knowledge of this anyway, being a rider, then you'll begin to see how your thoughts, your expectations, past experiences, habits, and so on, how they all shape the way that you react when you ride, and even how your horse responds to you. So, what then is predictive coding? It's a way that your brain is constantly guessing what's about to happen. So your brain was always thought of as being a little bit of a passive organ, if you like, in this sense, in that the information came from your surroundings through your five senses. So your brain soaked up all this sensory information, what you could see, what you could hear, what you could touch, taste, and what you could smell. But the brain is actually more like a prediction machine. So all of that sensory data is still very valid. It's just that on top of that, we have these expectations of what's about to happen. So your brain uses past experiences, your ideas, your level of arousal or your calmness to guess, estimate, predict, whatever you might want to call it, what is about to happen. So it may be taking this moment right now when you're listening to me and predicting what I'm going to say. How often have you done that? How often have you listened to someone and you know what they're going to say? And that's because your brain's jumped ahead and thought, I know what they're going to say next. How often have you watched a film and you knew the ending because your brain couldn't help but make an ending up for you and it just happened to be the right one? Or maybe it wasn't the right one, but it made a prediction. And that's what your brain's doing from moment to moment. So if you imagine this in an equestrian context, let's say you're going into a dressage arena, you're going into a competition arena, your brain's already making predictions. Can't help itself. It's an automatic feature that we come with. So your brain might be saying something like, oh, my horse is going to spook at the judge's car or the judge's booth or something like that. Or last time we came here, that corner was a problem. Or that change from canter to trot is never very smooth for me. Let's just delete those, by the way, just delete all of that. So none of them are installed in you. And although those are thoughts, they're also predictions. And very often equestrians would call these what ifs. And they're based on memories, something that you actually experienced or something you were told about, your emotions. The more emotions, the higher the emotions, if you like, the more intense the emotions for that memory, the more likely it is that that's going to be the thing that's called into your brain primarily. It's going to be called forth. And all that sensory data from where you are right in this moment. And your brain takes all of that like a supercomputer, rifles through all those past files on memories, ideas, habits, emotions, and what's actually happening now. I mean, billions and billions of pieces of data, and then, quick as a flash, makes a prediction for what's going to happen. So, how does this affect us as riders? It means that what we experience in the saddle isn't only based on what's really happening, it's based on what your brain expects to happen. Now, the good news is in a moment we will be able to override this, but let's just think for now that we don't know about predictive coding and we're just letting it roll out. Your posture in the saddle, your level of tension, and that may be tension in the correct muscles that need to be tensed at that moment, or it may be tension that is unhelpful. Your breathing, your rate of breathing, are you breathing deeply and, belly breathing, breathing into your pelvis, or is it more shallow and higher? Even your micro movements, it could even be that your eyes just quickly do a flash to the side of the arena. And that may influence what your brain picks up on, your brain decides is going to happen in the next moments. All of these things shape our expectations. And because horses are absolute masters at predictive coding and absolute masters at reading body language, obviously our horses are picking up on all of this in spades. So if your brain is predicting something negative, even slightly negative, you may subtly cue your horse with, again, almost imperceptible hesitation or tightness, or you may avoid giving your horse aids because you're kind of too tense, and you don't really want to move. Now, there's kind of like a catch-22 to this. It's a bit of a kicker. Your horse then confirms your prediction by acting in the way that you predicted. So your horse doesn't make beautifully smooth transition, or your horse does have a reaction to the judge's car or something like that. So it reinforces what your brain predicted, and your brain is almost saying to you, see, I told you. And that becomes a feedback loop because the next time you go and do it, your brain then predicts it again, maybe more strongly this time. And so it happens again. But we can stop all of this. We can make predictive coding work for us. So, like with so much of the mind, if we allow it to run on autopilot, it may not necessarily run in the way that suits us best and helps us out. But if we override it, if we're aware of what the brain does, then that's where the magic can start to happen. So predictive coding isn't fixed at all, and you can update your brain's model, if you like, because it's just going on past experiences. It's just kind of making a best guess. So if we go back and we change that forecast by doing repeated and safe, positive experiences. So, in a physical sense, excuse me, what we might do, we might decide that we are going to make our dressage test incredibly safe, incredibly easy, and very calm at home. And you might put a car in your arena so your horse isn't spooked or surprised by seeing a car in an arena. You might hire the venue. You might hire the venue several times so that your horse gets used to the corner, gets used to seeing whiteboards, and so on and so forth. That's something very actionable that you could do. But you can also do deliberate mindset work. You can do visualization. You can re-regulate your nervous system. In essence, you can train your brain to expect things to be calm and things to be successful. So I'm going to give you 4 quick tips of how to do that. So first of all, visualization. And I know I've mentioned this a million times, but it is so important. If you close your eyes and imagine each movement going well, particularly the stickier moments, not just how it all looks, because you may or may not be very visual, and even if you are visual, you need to put on the sounds. What's the sound of your horse on the surface? Maybe it's quite dulled sound. Maybe it's not very distinct, but there'll be sounds around you. Maybe it's birdsong. Maybe it's the sound of people or vehicles. So layer on the sounds, layer on the feelings. Now, this isn't just your emotional feel, but the touch side of the kinesthetic in terms of really feel how much of a contact have you got? What are your hands absolutely tensed up or your hands too loose? Just imagine that perfect contact and really feel it through your hands. And imagine all through your body, through your legs and knees and hips and thighs and through your waist even. Are you sitting to one side? Is one side of your waist a little bit longer than the other side that's shortened because you're sitting askew? What about your shoulders? Are your shoulders rounded or are they kind of back because your shoulder blades are in their little pockets? What about your head? Are you looking downwards? Are you looking up? Are you looking really far up? Probably not. So when you visualize, you're doing it quite actively and you're thinking about it in real terms and you're feeling it. The second thing to do is to reframe the old memories. So very often the most powerful reframe is to grab a learning from that experience, a positive learning. So what do I need to learn? What do I need to learn? Maybe it's that you, rather than being braced for something happening, that you're very calm. You're the exact opposite. Or maybe you need to learn that you've got a young horse and everything's a little bit spooky and different. So it's patience. So that is sitting in a quiet moment with the memories, dealing with them one by one, and just waiting. What do I need to learn? You could journal on it. I'm not massively into journaling myself, but some people love it. I like to think, and I know, people say think in ink, and so that you really get that structure, if you like, because writing it all down is much slower than thinking. And you start to see more insights. But if you haven't got the time or it's something that you don't like to do, you might want to just ponder quite deeply. Could be a mindfulness process even. The third thing is something we don't do enough of, and that's to celebrate the micro and nano successes. So we very often celebrate the larger wins, but what about the teeniest win that you can think of? The absolute teeniest win, which may just be that you breathed through that canter, or that you were always looking up and looking ahead. Think about the absolute smallest level success. Because in a whole dressage test or a show jumping round or a hack or a schooling session or a groundwork session, you're going to have so many of those. And it just starts to tilt that predictive coding towards something more positive. And the last thing is to regulate your nervous system. Do something that regulates your state. Now, for me, it's NLP. NLP all the way. If it's a big thing, it's some timeline therapy. If I've got time, and it's maybe a deeper thing, it might be some hypnotherapy. But you could use breath work. You could use box breathing, where you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, in for 4, hold for 4, and it's like moving around a box, like a square, if you like. Ground yourself. Sometimes just, placing your feet on the floor, and feel the ground beneath you. Some people like to imagine roots coming out of their feet and anchoring them sturdily into the ground. Other people like to walk on the ground, and that would mean walking on grass or walking on soil. You may or may not have the appropriate surroundings and opportunity to do that. But grounding you. Another great grounder, I love this one, is to place your hand on top of your head and just press. Press quite hard, quite firmly, and press so firmly that you feel yourself re-regulating. So once you can do these things, what your mind predicts each time becomes a little bit more positive. But what then if your predictions are always negative? Should you pay attention? Because we said this is kind of evolutionary, this predictive coding, and it was there to keep us safe. So should we pay attention to negative predictions? And I suppose the short answer is it depends. Sometimes it is trying to predict and save you, if you like, from something real. Maybe there is something off. Maybe, you're you're on a hack and you think, I need to get off. And maybe you do. Maybe it would be a good idea to lead your horse home. Maybe. Maybe just something doesn't feel quite right. Maybe your horse's energy isn't quite right. Maybe they're striding. Maybe the footing even, it's nothing to do with you or the horse, but where you're riding is a bit squelchy or is rock solid, like concrete hard. And so you almost need to go into your logical brain and just for a moment say, is this real? And is this helpful? But at other times, and the majority of times, let's face it, then we're stuck in a survival loop from our primitive lizard brain. And your lizard brain is all about survival. Your lizard brain would love it if you just stayed at home and you had somebody serve you meals. You didn't even get up because, you could survive like that. Somebody just bring you food and water and you could sleep. Your lizard brain would be totally happy with that. But that lizard brain at times gets it very wrong, especially, the way we live now. So we need to check our state. And if we're dysregulated in any way, if we've got a racing heart, shallow breath, our vision has suddenly swooped into being tunnel vision, that's likely survival mode. So ground yourself, feel your feet in the stirrups this time. You obviously can't get off and feel the ground. You could get off if you wanted to, but in that moment, feel the stirrups and how solid the irons are under your foot. And ask yourself, is this real? Is this useful? And if you think, no, it's not real, it's not real. I've got a very safe horse. I'm just going around an arena. There's absolutely nothing to be scared of. Then say to yourself, thanks for the warning, but I am trained for this. I know what to do. So thanks for the warning. I'm trained for this. I know what to do. Sounds a bit ridiculous talking to yourself like that. You can do it out loud, but you can also do it in your head. But it just soothes that part of the brain that's going, oh, we're not sitting down on a sofa. We're doing something else. So we can get rid of that dysregulation. So I suppose in summary, just remember your brain isn't a passive observer, it's an active predictor. And this predictive coding is just an expectation, and you can get it to work for you. So you feel good about the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. You can train your brain to expect calmness and clarity and control and whatever else you might want, so that your results follow, so that your predictive coding changes, and so on and so forth. I hope that's helpful to you. Take care, and I'll see you again very soon.